Good afternoon, everybody. It's us again, and we are joined by the lovely Sophia, the creator educator. Hi, Sophia. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you both doing?
Yeah, we're all right, aren't we, Georgia? We just had we just finished our tea and toast. Had, excuse me, a mad little quick sort this out and grab a bite to eat, and we're back again. So yeah, you'll be sick of the sound of our voices by this afternoon, I think.
Never.
There'll be a petition to get rid of us.
Yeah, I know. It will be, definitely. So yeah, welcome to our very first conversation starter. So this is something new that is our new program for 2021. And it's going to be something that we do once a month. And it's something we're going to decide a topic. And although we discuss various different things in our tea and toast sessions, it's where we're going to delve a little bit deeper into that session, into that topic, or, you know, whatever it is we're talking about, and try and come up with some sort of solutions. Not that we can solve, world problems, but there may be some things that we can sort of do to help the issue that we're talking about, either in ourselves or within our community or something along those lines. So, as I've said, our first conversation starter is all about loneliness. Now, loneliness is a, real relevant topic, I think, at the minute. I mean, loneliness happens always. There's always people who are struggling with loneliness. However, I think at the moment with the current pandemic, loneliness is probably heightened a bit for a lot of people. And I think there's probably people out there who are feeling lonely, who perhaps haven't really ever experienced that before because they've always had that contact with others. And so let's kick off. We've got a little bit of a slide, so I'm going to add our slides to the screen. I know, it's Georgia. She's our technical guru. She's amazing. So loneliness, our conversation starter today. If we move on to the first slide, please, Georgia. I feel like I'm Chris Whitty at the press conference. First slide, please. Okay, so loneliness. So loneliness is the state of being alone and feeling sad about it. Your loneliness might lead you to sit at home listening to depressing songs, or it could inspire you to go out and meet people. You can be alone and enjoy every minute of it, but from time to time, most of us experience loneliness. It's the feeling of sadness or even anxiety that occurs when you want company. On the other hand, it is possible to feel loneliness in a crowd, especially if you aren't interacting with others, like in a crowded subway, car, or busy grocery store. Even a place can have a sense of loneliness, like an empty room just after all your guests have left. Sorry, got a frog in my throat.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I got that from vocabulary.com, and I thought that was a really good explanation of loneliness that I think everyone can sort of, relate to.
Definitely. Yeah, because I think that sort of description there just shows, I really liked the one where it said you can be in a really crowded place and still feel lonely. You can be surrounded by friends or acquaintances or colleagues and still feel lonely, can't you? It's very much a thing that affects people in very, very different ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of like multiple levels, isn't it? And I think, like you touched on before, Jasmine, around sort of this pandemic, a lot of people have felt a lot more lonely and isolated because of that, and the connections that they maybe did have or didn't have. Even people who maybe didn't have those connections before, it's kind of, there's not then the opportunity to find those connections. But and I think that's been really challenging for a lot of people, and just people being outside of their comfort zone as well. Because I think a lot of, for me, and I don't know about you guys, I think part of the times when I'm feeling a bit like gloomy or a little bit low during this pandemic is that feeling that you haven't got control and you don't quite know what's happening, and you don't know if you're going to be able to see like family, friends. You don't know when that's going to happen, and I think that has a huge impact for people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we were just speaking about that in the Tea and Toast just earlier, Sophia, because we were saying, obviously with mental health and things, and the pandemic, because we have so little control over what's going on with our lives at the minute, and what we're allowed to do or not do, it really creates a lot of feelings in people that they haven't perhaps felt before, and those restrictions. And although we're all finding new ways to connect with people and connect with our family and our friends, I think you'll probably both agree sometimes it's never quite the same as going round to somebody's house or sitting having coffee with them, or sitting in a restaurant having a meal. Even working like this over Zoom that we have to do at the moment, we've all had to find different ways to adapt. However, it doesn't necessarily bring people that feeling of connection in the same way it would when you're face to face.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of almost like a different level of loneliness right there, because like it's sort of said in the definition about being like in a crowded room and feeling alone. I think sometimes with this sort of in things in the digital world, which is fantastic, it's not, I miss people and I'm seeing people, and it can be quite challenging. But I think what trying to sort of turn that into a positive is, I think, having things like this where we are talking about it and sharing it does help. We're not going to be able to solve everything because obviously it is out of our hands, and the best thing everybody can do at the moment is to stick to those guidelines, and hopefully we will find our way through. But yeah, it's, I think, having that space to talk about it. And how
I think as well, sorry to interrupt, I think as well it's also feeling able to sort of go, I'm not feeling great, I'm feeling a bit lonely. There's no harm in that. There's no one's going to judge you for that. And I think probably some people struggle with that because they've not felt like this before, and they struggle with being able to admit. And it's a bit, again, we spoke about this in Tea and Toast earlier, sometimes you sort of feel like, am I the only person feeling like this? And should I admit I'm feeling like this? And actually, if you are brave enough and you have the confidence to admit, you'll find there's so many more people that are feeling the same.
100%. I think it is. It's acknowledging that, and it is like you said, it's a very brave thing to be able to do and to acknowledge, and that you're not feeling whether it's yourself or you're not feeling as you normally would, whether that's for a short period of time or a longer period of time. I think it's just reflecting on that. I think that's something that I've tried to do during this time, is when I'm not feeling 100%, is take that little bit of time to reflect on what is it exactly, can I put my finger on it? And sometimes that helps, or talking it out with somebody, or writing it down, or try and find different ways. I think that's kind of looking at different ways so you can sort of tackle this for yourself. But also, like I said, I think one thing that for me has been a huge positive during this pandemic is how people have come together as a community, whether that's a virtual community, whether it's like collaborative, like work, like obviously I do with yourselves at Community Courtyard, but how people come together to support each other. I think that is the way we can sort of help each other and help ourselves. I think that's the key, I think, for me.
It's been quite heartwarming, hasn't it, how people and communities have pulled together, and I think it's something that once this is all over and we're out of this horrendous pandemic that we're in, it would be really great if it's something that continues, because out of something bad can come something good, and I think that's probably what has happened with the pandemic and whatnot. So so
what works for you? It's kind of, at the moment, I think I'm taking it as each day is one day at a time, and finding what works for you. Because I think that's the thing that we can kind of obviously suggest things, but I always kind of like with my sessions as well. I know that everybody's into crafting. No, not everybody. That's not their go-to. But if it gets you thinking about actually what works for me, if it helps reduce that loneliness, it helps that feel of connectivity, then I think that's a big achievement. And not to be sniffed at. I think sometimes we can sort of kind of dismiss those feelings and think, oh, I shouldn't feel like this, or I've got people around me, or there's other people who are worse off.
Yeah.
It's true, but
Yeah.
also acknowledging actually in that moment, this is how I'm feeling, and that's okay. And it is hard work. I speak from experience there, and I think everybody has mental health, don't they? And
of course they do, yeah. And sorry, go on, Georgia.
I was going to say, there's a few things. So I think, first of all, I think it's really important, like Sophia's saying, that you kind of recognise and validate your own feelings, and especially the feelings of people around you. Because if someone does have that brave, that sort of courage to say to you, do you know what, I'm actually feeling really sad, the worst thing you can do is be like, oh, well, someone else has got it worse. Because that's not going to help them, is it? It's not going to make them feel any more supported in their time of need. And also, like, especially with the pandemic, it's really easy to do this thing called catastrophizing, where you take one thing that goes wrong and it's literally like, World War III in your mind. Like, it is the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone ever, and you're never going to be able to come back from it, and your whole life is ruined. And I do that a lot.
I was just about to say, I think I'm quite guilty of that myself. If I'm like, if it's if you start off with a bad day and then it's a bit of a snowball effect. And as much as I know, right, just compartmentalize that, put that in the box, put that away. I let it carry on, and I snowball into this big, dramatic outburst. And sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it? Sometimes we're all going to have those days, for sure. Those days where every little thing goes wrong, and you're feeling probably the worst you felt in a while. But there will also be the good days there as well. So it's just making sure that there's that balance, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, shall we move on to our next slide?
Yes.
I think we've got a little activity.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Okay, so anyone who's watching us live now, and Sophia, Georgia, and I will do the same. So what I wanted to do is have a look at these 4 different photos. And we're all going to take 5 minutes just to jot down how that photo makes you feel. Does it make you feel sad, happy, whatever emotion, whatever that photo sort of cries out to you? Jot it down, and we'll discuss it in a minute. So we might go quiet for a few minutes. So it's just taking that time for everyone to spend a few minutes and looking at each of the photos, which I'm going to do myself as well. It's the first time I've seen them.
Well, I'm totally drawn to the first picture.
Me too.
Yes, that looks great.
I'm just going to write down some key words that I think each of the photos sort of, what jumps out to me.
Yeah, I've got a few for the first one already.
Yeah, me too. That's a real great photo, isn't it?
It is a great photo, yeah. Oh. I don't know about you guys. I always find something really calming about being by water.
Yeah, I'm always drawn to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think, what did my mum say? She said sometimes it's about like the moisture in the air.
Yeah.
Sort of make you feel more sort of hydrated and calm, and so maybe that's part of it.
Oh, I like this. I'm quite enjoying this. That guy on his is it that guy on his laptop or his phone on the picture, Sue?
Phone, I think.
Oh, I thought it was reading.
Oh, there you go. See, we all interpret it in a different way. I like it. Everybody interprets it in their own way.
Yeah.
have the world's smallest notebook at the moment.
Oh, gosh, that is small.
That is so cute.
I was using it for my session this morning. So
Was you?
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
I write myself a few notes as kind of as we go through a session. So we're doing, I think I mentioned you guys earlier, mindful breathing, which is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody was really relaxed. I thought everybody was going to nod off by the end.
We did a bit of that this morning, didn't we? I did a little bit of a guided meditation, and it was really relaxing and peaceful, wasn't it, Georgia?
Yeah, I almost fell asleep. I had to make sure I didn't slip off, smack my head on the desk.
So if you are watching this live with us at the moment and you've jotted down some things about these photos, feel free to pop them in the comments and I can read them out and we can see what everyone's thinking. So how are we almost there, ladies?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah?
I'm there.
Okay.
Do my other scribbles. You're on that side.
Oh gosh, I can't read that at all. It's far too.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right. I'll read them out. We'll type them in. Yeah. The quicker I write, the scruffier it gets. It's the way I work.
Oh, okay. So photo number A. So I'll go through you guys first and then I'll give you mine. So Sophia, what did you get down from A?
So I got down wide open space, calmness, and then I wrote water and nature. There's kind of that, it seems like that openness is there. And it's kind of, it's almost, I don't know, it's kind of that vision. I don't know, I just can kind of see like it's kind of, because it's going out in that sort of outward shape.
Yeah, definitely.
What
did you get, Georgia?
I put serene, beautiful, and natural.
Oh, I love that. I put peaceful, relaxing, solitude, meditation.
Oh, I like this.
So I think this is a really interesting picture because, as we say, like you can interpret each picture in a completely different way to someone else. But I think with this one, it doesn't seem lonely to me per se. It kind of seems more like somewhere you'd want to be alone, like just to be with yourself and your thoughts.
Completely agree. That's exactly what I was just going to say. Like for myself, looking at this photo, I wouldn't look at that and take that and thinking, that person must be feeling quite lonely sat there on their own. My interpretation would be that person is sat there in such a beautiful, serene surroundings. How truly wonderful, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay,
I want to sit there.
Let's move on to B. What have you got down for B, Georgia?
I have content and peaceful.
Sophia?
I thought that person was fishing, so I thought whether it's kind of their own space, their hobby, so it's kind of their form of mindfulness. I've got noticing the sunset and that relaxing feeling, kind of that end of the day vibe.
Yeah, I put down relaxing and peaceful. So we're all quite similar on that,
there, aren't we?
Yeah. So
with this picture, I chose it because so my partner's stepdad, he loves fishing. He goes fishing a lot, and he doesn't want to go fishing where there's loads of people. He does it because he wants to be, he wants to have that time to himself. He finds it very peaceful and serene. But like other people might say that guy is lonely. But he might be having the best day of his life. Like he might be absolutely loving it.
Well, this is it. And I guess this is, where loneliness is so different from person to person. Personally, I wouldn't enjoy just going fishing by myself. I'd feel lonely. It wouldn't interest me. I like to do things with people around me, but for some people that's their hobby, their thing that, gets them through. They want that bit of time out. It varies very much from person to person, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I'm definitely a sort of person. I like at least sort of 10 to 20 minutes a day where I'm just kind of by myself. I think because I've been used to my own company for so long. I quite like that time just for me.
Yeah.
I don't really have to be doing anything. Sometimes I'm doing something. Sometimes I'm just kind of, I'll come upstairs and just
just be.
Yeah, watch rubbish on the telly or
Yeah.
look through Instagram, and it's just kind of that like a reset button.
Yeah, see, I really struggle with any me time at the moment because obviously the kids are off school and I'm working from home, and like I was saying in Tea and Toast earlier, I can't even go for a walk on my own because the kids have to come and the dog.
Yeah.
So for me at the moment, although I'm not a big be on your own person, I'm sort of craving a little bit of sort of me time, you know.
Yeah,
and I find the only way I get that at the moment is when I go and do the food shopping, because I have to wait for my husband. I have to wait for Sam to get home, and then I'll go out either on an evening or a weekend. And honestly, that hour doing the food shopping is, it's bliss. Although I'm in a crowded supermarket, it's my little bit of alone time because I'm just constantly with people, and that's such a change because normally the kids are at school and I'm off work, and you get that bit of it's and I can't even get the kids to bed at a normal time at the minute because normally they'd go to bed and I'd have like my bit of time reading or something, but because they're not at school, they're all the routine's all out the window. They're not going to bed at normal time, so you don't even get that time of an evening. So I'm craving a bit of that me time at the moment.
Maybe everybody's have their own me time.
Yeah, it's all in separate rooms.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of be in the same room, but just everybody's kind of having their own little quiet time.
Yeah, I don't think that works, Sophia, because it'd be every 2 minutes, mum. I'll be like,
that's what I do, not the disturb sign, and then put a timer on it.
Just put my headphones on and be like, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think it's important just to have that time for yourself. It is hard. I think kind of that. So we're having so much time together as well when you're in close proximity with people all the time.
Yeah,
it is hard and it is challenging.
Definitely.
And just like for me, I've been having more baths. I like a bath.
Oh, you and Georgia are the same. Georgia loves a good bath, don't you, Georgia?
Absolutely love a good bath.
Yeah.
2-hour bath.
2 hours? Oh, bang! I can't do that then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
You keep topping your water up with hot water then?
Yeah. And what's that place where the water has so much salt in it that you just float? The Dead Sea?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically my bath. Like, I have so many bath salts in there that I just, like, perpetually float. Yeah. You can't go down. You're just, like, on the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to show a comment. We've just had a comment from Bethy. I think as a mum, you don't have the luxury of just turning a blind eye. I feel your pain. I can't even go to the toilet by myself half the time. Yes, sister, I hear you. Literally, if I get to go to the toilet by myself on a day, I'm winning. I'm literally winning at life. Just do not get those luxuries. So completely agree with you there. So do we think photo B is that a lonely photo? Did we just?
I think it obviously depends on your perception. I think if that person is enjoying that time by themselves, then I think maybe they don't feel lonely, but it might be perceived as being lonely because they're by themselves. I think it's kind of going back to that description before, that I think sometimes that perception is that if you're by yourself, you must be lonely, but
definitely
not always the case.
No, definitely. All right, then let's move on to photo C. What have you got down for that, Sophia?
Oh, what have I got down? I got down thinking, and then we were having a bit of a discussion whether it was a phone or a book. Yeah. I thought it was a phone, which I was a bit like, oh, I don't know about that. And then reflection.
Well. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. What did you have, Georgia?
So I put lonely and isolated.
Okay. So I put lonely and sad. I don't know, for some reason that photo just makes me feel like that person's sad and lonely, sat there by themselves.
Yeah, see, I got that as well. That's what I thought.
Yeah, but then, like, if that person is sat there reading a book, that could be a really lovely. I'm sorry, I'm getting really close to the screens. I'm trying to look. That could be a really lovely bit of me time for them, and watching the sunset and having,
If anyone has exceptional eyesight and can see what that guy's holding, if you could drop that in the comments. Is it a phone? Is it a bird? Is it a plane?
Or laptop.
Yeah, I think
it is on his lap.
I think it is it is either a phone or a laptop, I think.
Which is interesting because I kind of do that sometimes. I can just sit. It looks like I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of zone out a bit and just kind of go through my phone of like things that either looking through, catching up with life, and even just kind of sometimes I just sit and go, actually, I haven't spoken to this person via text or WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I can contact them.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, it's just all down to perception, isn't it? Right, photo D. So I'll kick off. So I just wrote for this. I wrote deserted and empty. What did you get, Georgia?
I put barren, grand, and travel.
Sophia?
I went for distance and openness.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't look at this photo and particularly look at it and think that's a sad photo. Does anyone else?
No, I can understand kind of that lonely isolation, maybe perception of it. But I was kind of looking at just like the openness of that space. And I think because you've got, this is just me being a bit, I don't know, because the sky is bigger than the actual land. It seems like a lot bigger and a bit more like, oh, this is okay. I wouldn't mind being sat there. Depends what the situation was, but
like the composition sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most. I would say that could probably be the most controversial picture there, because I think you can take it totally differently.
Yeah. Definitely. I like that. Oh, I enjoyed that.
That's nice, isn't it? That's a nice
little activity
to kick us off. Absolutely. Okay, so we're sort of, with these conversation starters, we are sort of breaking it down, and the issue that the topic that we're talking about, we have thought up of 4 questions which we'd like to discuss, and sort of that's going to be the basis of our conversation. So obviously we're talking about loneliness. So our question 1, and we're just looking for different people's opinions, and this is what it's all about. These are just to delve a bit deeper into, the way people think things look like or how they perceive it. So question 1 would be, what does loneliness look like? And I think that's probably going to be an answer that there may be some similarities that we all give, but also could look very different in our opinions. Who wants to kick us off? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll go for this. But I think loneliness is kind of, I think sometimes when I'm thinking of it visually, you kind of maybe think of a certain age group as well. If you're thinking that just instant thought, if somebody said, give me 3 words to describe loneliness, I'd probably think of an older generation. Somebody by themselves, isolation, somebody maybe not particularly happy. That would be my instant reaction. But then sort of going a little bit deeper into that, actually, kind of again going back to this definition, loneliness can be kind of that distance between people. So you can be in a room full of people and feel lonely, and you can feel distance from them. But actually, sometimes you might be quite comfortable with your own company. So that loneliness maybe is a positive for you in certain times. I think it's all about a balance, really, and kind of what effect is it having on your well-being, your mental health? Is it, if you, again, checking in with yourself and how you're feeling within yourself? Is that loneliness something that is a positive for you, and you need that time for yourself and have that sort of lonely moment, if you like? Or is it having a more negative effect on you? And then that's kind of, for me, how I'd look at it.
No, completely. I mean, what does loneliness look like? I would probably agree with you in the first instance there, Sophia, because if you have a picture in your mind, the first thing that would spring to my mind again is an older generation. and that, you know, that's not necessarily always the case, is it? It's just that first impression of how, you know, what you're thinking. So yeah, I would say an older generation. I would say a word that would spring to mind is sad. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another one. But again,
it's interesting.
Sorry, Georgia.
Sorry. It's interesting that you both said an older generation, because when I think of loneliness, I think of teenagers.
Really?
Personally, yeah, that's the first thing that comes into my head, because I think with loneliness, as we read in the definition, it can be, you know, you can be surrounded by people and feel lonely. I feel like loneliness is an inner situation rather than necessarily an outer situation, because if you can be in like a concert, you know, and feel lonely, then it can't be about, you know, the number of people that are around you. So I think that with like, say, teenagers, I think it's a difficulty with sometimes explaining how you feel, so you can talk to someone about your loneliness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you kind of delve into it a bit more, loneliness doesn't have an age limit, or whether it's younger or older. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm really interested to kind of that perception that you that was the first thing you thought of with sort of teenagers being lonely. I was not something that would have occurred to me straight away, but it's huge food for thought, actually. What does that loneliness look like to different people in different ages as well? Because I imagine even a younger person than that, how would they perceive that as interesting?
Definitely. I mean, whilst you guys have just been talking, then I've just been sat here thinking, and, you know, with Georgia saying about teenagers, and I'm thinking to myself, well, the other thing that just popped into my head is a school child. And when children are lonely at school, and we all know how mean kids can be, they're without realizing at those sort of primary school ages. But yeah, just in my head was just a vision of, you know, I don't know if you guys, when you were at school, but there was quite often some poor little person who was left out and sort of stood on their own. And that, that just brought an image to my head then. I just want to read a great comment that Bethy's just put.
Yeah, I was just reading that myself,
Yeah, I think you can't see it. Some people can be lonely in a sea of people. I think loneliness is the ability to relate with other people with a similar mindset, but not being able to communicate with them. For instance, an introvert may love to be alone, but will have friends that are the same, but they don't feel lonely because they're all being apart together. On the opposite side too, if you always want to go out and do stuff and no one around you wants to do that, then you can feel lonely.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, Bethy. Absolutely. I really like the reference to introverts as well, because I think that's something you can be quite. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of an introvert and an extrovert. Sometimes I think I can go from one to the other, and being somebody's introvert is obviously maybe a bit more reserved, a bit more sort of internally reflective than an extrovert who feels really comfortable being around lots of people. And I think she's spot on with that, actually, with that terminology of introvert as well. So yeah, that's spot on. Definitely, that's given me a lot of food for thought as well.
Yeah, definitely. What did Laurel just said? Loneliness can be a good thing for me, and it can be a bad thing because no one in a crowd because of disability. Yeah, absolutely, Laurel. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. You know, what's good for one and isn't not good for another. You know. Sorry, girls. I'm going to literally be 1 minute. One of my children's crying their eyes out upstairs. I've just got to run up and check if he's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I'll literally be 1 sec.
No worries.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, no, I think it's as an individual as people are, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say, you know, like what does an emotion look like or what does a feeling look like, because even if you are feeling a certain way, if you are, say, like an extrovert, you can sort of put on that front all the time. So that person could be feeling some really complex, sad feelings, and you wouldn't necessarily know. So it's difficult to know what it looks like. I mean, how would you recognize loneliness in someone else, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I suppose, again, that's something that's very individual to the person. Depends if you knew them very well, you then maybe could recognise if they're a bit more distant, maybe, or I'm trying to think, just maybe their body language as well, if you can see them in person, or sometimes the tone of their voice, and just kind of whether they're, if you're even in like a virtual, whether you do like a family Zoom or a friend Zoom, and you normally join, and you notice that either they're not joining in as much or they're not there, and maybe it's something like that. I think it can. I think it's very much subject to the person. But what about you, Georgia?
Sorry, ladies, I'm back.
That's okay, no problem.
That's okay. So with the pandemic, I thought that something that's really interesting is trying to decipher whether someone feels a certain way based purely on the way that they're typing their responses to you in chat, because that is like very difficult. But I think there are, as you said, if you know someone really well, then I think the words that they use are slightly different, or their sentences are shorter, or they don't really necessarily want to have a conversation with you, and they're not sort of engaging with you in the same way. And I think that sometimes if you delve into that deeper, then there's usually a lot more under the surface that's going on.
Definitely.
But how about you, Jasmine? How would you recognise loneliness in someone else, do you think?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it sounds a bit weird, but because if they're lonely, but if they may be a friend, sometimes they can withdraw, and which sounds a bit contradictory, because you don't want to withdraw if you're feeling lonely, because you want that company, but sometimes
it's like a coping strategy.
Yeah, and it can make people sort of go a bit insular, can't it? And I think a lot of the time people feel worried about burdening other people. So as much as people might reach out to someone who's sort of going through that, you sort of think, oh, I don't want to burden that person. So you just sort of become more and more insular. And so that would probably be one of the main ways I'd probably start to think, oh, something's not right. I mean, it's like you were just saying, Georgia, I know I just came on the end of what you were saying, but it's difficult at the moment, isn't it, when we're not seeing people face to face. And, there's a lot more texting and emailing, and, I know we all do the Zooms and FaceTimes and whatnot. But I think sometimes as well, when you're reading a text from someone or you're reading an email, I think it's really hard they can be misinterpreted so easily. Look at text. I don't know about you guys, but I've had texts from a friend or something, and I'm reading it, I'm thinking, oh, that sounds a bit funny. It's just it wasn't meant that way, or it's just the way that I've interpreted that message. So yeah, it's a difficult one, and like we've said before, loneliness doesn't look the same on every person. So there's not a checklist to go tick. Yeah, they're definitely they're doing that. So they must be lonely, because we all react and deal with things in very different ways. Completely agree. I think, did you just say, Georgie, like your own friends, and if it's their normal sort of behaviours, or is it normal for them to miss the Friday night Zoom with the girls, or whatever it is you sort of do, and just to perhaps watch out for sort of behaviours that are slightly different to what you'd normally expect or see from them. Let's just see what Bethy's just said. So she said maybe it's proportionate. Sorry.
It's on the mark today.
Oh, I know. Maybe it's proportionate to how much the person is willing to be seen as vulnerable, because loneliness is seen as a negative thing, maybe.
Spot on.
Absolutely, 100%. But is it a negative thing? If you're feeling lonely, is that negative?
I think it depends on the person, but I think as maybe a society,
Mm-hmm.
the general statement, I don't believe everybody believes this, but it maybe is seen as a negative thing, kind of bit like mental health can be seen as a negative thing.
There's like a stigma to it, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I really like what Bethy said about actually that willingness to be seen as vulnerable, because I think, again, that can sometimes be perceived as a negative thing, that if you're being vulnerable, then you're weak, or you're not up to whatever it is. And actually, I think there's a great power in that vulnerability. I'm really interested in, this will be being a little bit geeky, guys. I love a bit of research around vulnerability and shame. And I think I've talked to Jasmine about this before. There's a really great researcher called Brene Brown, and she talked a lot about vulnerability and shame, and actually how you can kind of turn that from being something that is perceived as negative into something that actually is a great power, and actually is something that's really brave. And to be able to share that and to show people that is a huge
yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think it's a shame that not more of us are brave enough to do so, because it is seen as a negative, and it is seen as, oh, you're weak. You're weak if you show vulnerability, and in my opinion, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah. And it's really hard not to kind of, for people who don't feel comfortable doing that, it's not because they're not strong enough to do that, but it's because it's something that's really difficult. And I think you kind of have to train yourself, and you have to train your brain. Actually, it's okay. And I mean, that's something for me personally that I've had to work on a lot. I don't know whether I've kind of said, I know, Jasmine, but I don't know if I've shared on here before that I have an anxiety disorder. And probably 2-3 years ago, I would have been absolutely petrified to tell anybody. Because that fear of that being that vulnerable and being judged. And I think that's maybe what links into actually that negative side that sort of Bethy is talking about. It's that fear of what people are going to think about me.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me personally, I have a lot of anxieties and trauma and things like that. So it's taken me like years and years and years and years, probably like basically my whole life, to get to the point where I am okay in saying, how I feel and sort of sharing my story to a certain extent. And of course, some things like you just don't want to share, and it's not your time to share it. But sometimes it's starting small, and just saying to someone, I feel really, I barely slept last night, I've had nightmares, I've had this, that, and then to sort of try and go on from there, and and work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bethy's just said, and people who don't worry about being vulnerable will essentially be able to fix it quicker.
Yeah.
And then we've got another one from Paul. I think it can be very difficult for people to admit. I know, for example, before we got my granddad down from Scotland, he was excruciatingly lonely, but didn't ever admit it. With young people or any age, it is the same though. Sometimes a person might be acting in all sorts of strange and risky ways, criminality, etc., and they don't mind telling you all about these crazy things. But really, the thorn in the bear's paw is something like loneliness, which they don't want to admit. Definitely.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thorn in the bear's paw, because I think that's really accurate. It is literally like the thing that's making you do all these things is not at all what someone from the outside would think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a root cause,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's going that bit deeper and going, well, why are people acting like that? What is that root cause of what makes them act that way? No, absolutely. I mean, do you think we should move on to question number 2, Georgia?
Yeah, so do we have our QAA?
Oh, yeah, do we?
Yeah, so our question is, what does loneliness look like? The answer is looks different to everyone.
Yeah.
And how can that be actioned, I suppose, is to think of the people around you, watch out for potentially any abnormal behaviour. And if you are dealing with loneliness, to reach out to someone. If you need someone who's not like really close to you in your life, then you can always drop us a message.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that someone will be happy to speak with you and help you through any tough periods of time, and that it's okay to feel lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you just nailed that on the head. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's move on to our question number 2.
Has it come up?
Not yet. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
How does loneliness affect your everyday life? Well, I'd imagine for some people it can be quite hard, because as we were just speaking about a moment ago, you're at home, you're starting to feel lonely, your mental health is starting to suffer. That then can make you go quite insular, and you start becoming more and more, maybe a hermit, so to speak. So perhaps as your mental health is deteriorating, as your loneliness is increasing, does it then make you become more resistant to things outside that you would normally get involved with or do, I guess?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think it can affect it in a number of different ways, and I think just looking at kind of, like you were saying, affecting your mental health, it's kind of how it affects you sort of internally, but then the effects that maybe you can see on the outside as well. So it may be that you find it difficult to get up in the morning, you find it hard to actually maybe have a wash, have a shower, or whether you want to eat something because you think, actually, well, I haven't got anybody to get up for. I've not got anybody to have a meal with.
I was about to say, does it make people stop eating and things because they think, wow,
Yeah, and I think it can be really hard. It doesn't have to be, obviously, it could be small or something like that. It could just be how it affects your mood and maybe how it affects your motivation. Again, kind of whether you struggle to get out of bed or not. I think sometimes that can be a really big factor, that actually you feel like, I feel this lonely. I'm gonna stay in this kind of bubble, as it were.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I guess as the deeper you sort of get into those feelings of sort of loneliness and, feeling quite low mentally, it makes the everyday tasks, which normally feel quite small and minute, harder and harder, I'd imagine.
Going years back again, so I used to have like this really crippling loneliness 24/7, and it got to the point where I would literally sleep 2 hours a night because I'd be up all night like crying or feeling really low, and then I wouldn't eat, and then I'd be like, oh, it's been 3 days, I haven't had a shower, I haven't eaten anything, I've only slept for a few hours, and it just gets to the point where it's just that domino effect of like that one thing, and then it just continues and continues and continues. And sometimes you need someone to kind of shake you out of it to a certain extent, like nudge you gently. Because otherwise you just get trapped inside your own vicious cycle, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But looking on the other side of it, I mean, having that moment to yourself actually might be a really positive thing. I know, Jasmine, you were saying earlier that actually you're finding that really difficult to have those moments at the moment because there's so much going on. I think a lot of people feel like that during this time, and maybe that moment of loneliness, which I'm going to call it, a positive moment of loneliness actually can help you just restart, have that bit of time for yourself. And,
what I was going to say actually, before I forget, I was going to say that we need to sort of help to define the difference between loneliness and being alone, because I think they're two different things, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can enjoy being alone, and you're not lonely, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Bethy's just put, and you know that you can last that long not looking after yourself and nothing bad has happened, so then you do it again and again. Yeah. That's a really sad thought, isn't it? That you think, well, you know, it's I'm surviving like this, I might as well carry on doing it like this. But going back to what you just said, Georgia, you're right. There's a difference between loneliness and being alone, and it's some people hate their own company, don't they? Some people really, I know I've got a few friends who just hate their own company, don't want to be on their own. And like we've said earlier on, other people are more than happy to have that bit of time. It's their bit of downtime or their little bit of me time, and it's so important. So coming on to question 2, I mean, how does loneliness affect your everyday life? I guess the answer is there's many ways, isn't there?
Yeah, it can be debilitating at the end of the day. Like, it can really sort of tear you down to the point where you don't really have a day, because it just all sort of blurs into one, you know, week long, 2 weeks, however long it lasts. So how would we action? What is the action that we can do to help with that?
I suppose what I would recommend is kind of, you know, we were talking about maybe you struggle to get out of bed, have a shower, is maybe breaking those things down into smaller steps. Maybe, you know, for the first thing, maybe it's that you get out of bed, or you set yourself a little sort of an alarm or something, and move your alarm that's away from your bedside table. That's all for me. And just set yourself, do one thing one step at a time. If you manage to get up and get yourself a drink, fantastic. And maybe if you can and you feel comfortable to, is to reach out to somebody that you feel comfortable with, and find that support, because it's not just your family and your friends. There's obviously professionals as well who can help with this side of things. If you're feeling to a point where you can like contact your GP, or if there's a support group or something like I know the Samaritans and places like Mind can help with things like that. I know Age UK do a really big campaign around loneliness as well. And look at what's there locally.
I mean, I think a bit further on in this chat we've got a couple of organisations in Northampton that we're going to put up on here for people if it is something that, you know, you want a bit of help, a bit more than, you know, just reaching out to a friend, that we'll be able to signpost you to. Bethy's just said, have you heard of the article called Run the Dishwasher Twice?
I haven't.
No. What I was going to say, while we if Bethy could put a link in the comments, that'd be amazing, then we could take a look. But what I was going to say was a trick that I used to do, going back years again, is that, so I would just set myself like a challenge every day and be like, okay, eat a biscuit, you know, like eat a sandwich, just have one meal for this day, and just try and do that, you know, just like to have a wash, you know.
Oh, well, it's baby steps, isn't it? You try and if you try and go, right, I'm really struggling at the moment, but here's this huge task that I need to do all of this every day. If you're already feeling mentally not stable and not great, all that's going to do is push you further down into the hole. It's baby steps, it's small things, and then also small things that you can then feel proud and feel, well, I've achieved that, I've done that.
Exactly.
And like both yourself, Georgia, and Sophia said, little things, and it doesn't have to be that you have to increase it every day. Just do a week of getting out your pajamas for the day, you know, and build up on it.
Yeah, you don't have to conquer a mountain. You just need to do a little hill, do a little speed bump. You know?
A little speed bump every day. That's all it takes, and then those speed bumps will grow. So, Becky's just said it's about making unnecessary rules for yourself too. So people in depression haven't cleaned their dishes because they can't be bothered to rinse the dishes before they put them in the dishwasher. And their friend said, just put them in the dishwasher twice.
Yeah. I found the link. I'll put it in. I think if you guys can share it on the comments. I don't think I can on here at the minute.
Okay.
But I found it. Yeah. It looks really good article, actually. I really like that.
Oh, I'm going
to have a read of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Becky.
That looks great. Shall we move on to slide 3? Oh,
yes,
question 3.
Oh, this is a big one.
I can't remember what we said. Oh,
I don't know
why do people feel lonely? Well, I'll kick off. So it's different. It's different for different people. There's the physical. There could be the physical side. They're a person that's at home, alone, living by themselves. Perhaps they don't have many friends. They don't have a lot of family, or they could have family, but perhaps family don't interact with them all that much. I'd say probably that's what would spring to my mind as a first thought of why would you be lonely? You're alone. You're home. You're stuck by yourself. But then I guess there's the other very different side in that you don't have to be. You can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely. So is it more about, can you make connections with people? Do you relate to people? Do people get you? I guess going back to the whole, when you think about a child at school and they're lonely and they're a person that's not getting involved or being allowed to be involved in the games or whatnot, is it just about people don't get them or they don't relate? It's about connections, isn't it? I'm guessing. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're spot on with that. I think it's kind of like having kindred spirits, like people who share your worldviews, your beliefs, and if you haven't found those people yet, then you can feel really isolated because you don't have that connection with another person, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And it's really it's actually really difficult if you're sitting in a room with people and you know that you don't share any common interests and there's nothing for you to talk about or to connect over that you can see. So then you just feel like, well, I may as well just sit here then, by myself.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like, you could work you could, not at the minute because we're all working from home, but you could be in a workplace full of colleagues sat around you. But if you don't relate with any of them, you don't have that connection with any of them, they're all having the office banter and you're sat there not involved. I imagine that would be quite a lonely place because they're not your type of people, or about you're not their sort of person. It's I mean, it happens that connection and that relatability between different people happens at every age, doesn't it? It happens at school kids, going to college, university. You go off to university, you leave home for the first time, you're lonely because you're missing your family, you're homesick. Are you able to make those connections and those relationships with friends in uni? I mean, that's probably can be a very, very lonely place for people as well. I didn't go to university, but imagine going off to uni, leaving your family and friends for your first time, and then finding yourself, I don't know, in halls with people you don't gel with. They're not your cup of tea. That could be quite a lonely place, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, I went to uni and stayed in halls, and definitely had a few moments, that initial kind of like when you move into halls and you don't know anybody. I mean, when I went to uni, nobody really sort of connected beforehand. I know there's loads of like forums and groups and things now. And it
literally was just like, hi.
It was like, hi. I mean, everybody was like in the same boat. So everybody did that. And then you find like the people who you do get on with, you maybe others that you don't, because that's kind of walk of life. And I think, there was definitely times where I felt a bit lonely because there was people who liked to party more than I did. I liked my sleep. And it can feel quite lonely when you can kind of see people going off and doing stuff, and maybe kind of you feel left out, but you know you don't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
But you can still feel
Yeah.
lonely and left out, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think especially if we take sort of young people's environments like universities into, as an example, there's not a lot of situations where, say, extroverted people who love going out partying and being loud and doing all this, they don't often think about making an environment comfortable for an introvert to begin to make those connections with them. If you see what I mean, like the responsibility is on the introvert to suddenly change personalities and be that loud, outgoing like person, knocking back a few Jaeger bombs, things like that, and then falling on the floor, collapsing because they've never drunk before. But yeah, the responsibility is on the introvert, but it should be the extrovert's responsibility to say, okay, look, there's this person, they look really cool, they're not, very loud on all this, so do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shut up for 5 minutes and see if they want to talk to me about knitting or painting or anything like that. And then you might find out that actually loads of those more extroverted type people really want to learn how to sew and say, like, do you know what, Friday night we'll do the sewing, Saturday night I'll have a few drinks with you before you go out to the clubs.
Do you know what, I love that. You've made such a great point there, and one I've never really thought about before, but spot on. Like, why does it have to be the introvert that has to change their personality to fit in? I love that, Georgia. That was brilliant. That's really food for thought there, because I guess maybe a lot of society feels like, well, actually, we're the outgoing ones. Well, you have to join us to fit in with us. That's not right, is it? Surely.
Yeah. All about balance, I say.
Definitely.
And then you're missing out on an opportunity to sort of broaden your own horizons. If you are an extroverted type person, and because people create their own echo chambers, don't they? You end up surrounding yourself with people who are basically quite identical to yourself because of all the things that you share in common and all the beliefs and morals that you share. But the problem with that is that you then cut yourself off from lots of different people who have lots of different skill sets and ideas and things like that. So if you don't make that room an environment that's safe for those people, ultimately you're going to be the one missing out.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. That's really, really, really interesting. I mean, I guess I'm quite outgoing and loud, although a lot of the time when I'm on these things, I'm always nervous, so I'm not quite as outgoing and loud as I normally would. But you get me and my friends together, and it's like trying to get a word in edgeways, because you say, you surround yourselves with similar people, don't you? And we're all quite loud, and we all want to talk. We're all talking over each other, and we all want to say the next bit, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, you do. And I've not heard that saying before. It's like an echo chamber. I've never heard that, but I like that. That's yeah.
Lots of visuals. I like it, Georgia.
Oh, right. Look, come on. Bethy's got another good one for us. So I think some people swap. I'm both an introvert and an extrovert, and it's hard for me sometimes when everyone else wants to go out and I want to stay in, and can happen the other way around. I had to find friends that are also balanced in the middle. Yeah. And Laurel said that she's an introvert as well. I mean, there are lots of introverts out there, and I really think that's a good point, Bethy, because you can, be a bit like a chameleon. You change to fit in with what, I can be, as a person in general, I'm really loud and I'm outgoing, but I'm not quite as confident in, like work things and that. So I won't be quite. So we do change our personalities a bit, don't we, to adapt to who we're with and where we are.
100%.
Yeah. That's like a survival thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we wouldn't get through life, would we?
Yeah, you have to find your tribe.
Yeah, and for me, it's as I become more comfortable. So I guess it's you go to uni, you could start off of this real sort of like retire, what's it called, a shy wallflower or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
But you start off really shy, and some people that will make them blossom into this amazing, beautiful, flower. But other people, they could start off really outgoing, and their experience makes them sort of go back the other way. It's all about different life experiences and how we adapt and how we deal with them, isn't it? And as to how we feel.
Yeah,
I've got a potential action.
Go on.
For this question. So I was thinking it'd be really interesting to do like a culture club where you get people who are introverts, extroverts, and then all come together and kind of share different skill sets and hobbies and things like that, and just try and find something that you have never done before or that you've never thought of doing before, and then see if you can
give it a go.
Yeah, like in a safe environment that is that allows people to be who they are. I
love that. That sounds like a great idea. Culture club. Do we have to sing along to the music as well?
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking.
No, that's a brilliant action, Georgia, because also I think sometimes as well that allows you to, like we said, you surround yourself with certain people and you only get to know certain things, but you start to, mix with other people, and you can learn so much more from other people. Just broadening your horizons, I guess, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, weren't we, Jasmine, about how I'm going to do a tutorial for you next week.
Yes.
With how to make the slideshows like we've got here today.
I'm such a technology dinosaur. I don't know what I'm doing.
But it's stuff like that, isn't it? It's like you could literally say, this week at Culture Club we're gonna do, I don't know, some graphic design. Do like a little Mr. Man or something. With the wiggly arms.
Yeah.
Top hats, wiggly arms. Do that, and then you'd learn how to do something completely new, which is
no, definitely, and which is only sort of making us more all-rounded humans, isn't it? Giving us another skill set. You can never learn too many new skills, I always say. Yeah, no.
Lovely ladies, I've got to shoot off in a moment because I've
got. I was looking at the time, thinking you got to go. No, don't worry.
Thank you for joining us. For you. That links in really well.
Yes, because Sophia's got to go off and do her crafternoon, haven't you?
Yeah, so I'm going to be prepping for that. Have a little quick sandwich as well before we get going too. So have a little break for myself, which is important.
Yeah.
We're going to be crafting this afternoon. But ladies, it's been fantastic talking to you.
No, thank you so much for joining us.
I will check out the rest of the live stream in a little bit.
Cool. Thank you, Sophia. What time's your What time's your crafternoon, in case anyone wants to join? 3 o'clock. What are you doing? What are you making?
3 o'clock, and we're making yarn letters today.
Ooh, yarn letters. So if anyone watching fancies a bit of craft, join Sophia at 3 o'clock this afternoon. But thanks again, Sophia. It's been great talking to you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye.
Oh, it's just me and
then there were two.
And then there were two.
And Betty. Becky can always
don't leave us. Stay.
Comment in so we put it up.
I love that action point, Culture Club. Yeah, perhaps we can look into something. Perhaps once a month at the yard, it's something we could host or something like that.
And if anyone would be interested in something like that, a little culture club, drop it in the comments. How you feel about it, and tell us what would you bring to the table. What skill would you like to share with other people?
Definitely. Yeah, I'll look forward to hopefully some people will want to get involved in that. It'll be a really great thing to do.
Definitely.
Awesome. Right, should we move on to our last question then?
Yeah.
Question number 4. How has COVID impacted loneliness? I mean, I think we've touched on it a bit already before, haven't we? But it's huge impact that COVID's had on loneliness. With us all, not just lockdown, but with people having to shield, with us not being able to go out and see each other. The impact of COVID on loneliness, I think, is actually really huge. And this is where I think maybe some people who haven't ever really experienced real loneliness or such before, perhaps during this pandemic has been something that's probably hit them quite hard. You know, if you think, for example, let's just take an old elderly person who perhaps is in the 70s to 80s, but is perfectly, you know, feels well and everything. And is used to going out down to the shops and, you know, getting out and about, and is quite sociable. Potentially, because of her age, could have been told to shield. And then there lies a person at home all by themselves who is used to being quite sociable and probably of an age where they don't Zoom and they don't FaceTime and they don't know all of the technology that perhaps some of us are more, you know, using, and even if we didn't know, can easier get our heads around.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on this last week, I believe, but my grandmother, she doesn't have a mobile phone, she doesn't have internet, she doesn't have like Sky or anything like that. So she literally just has like Freeview, and that's the most technical thing that she's got in her house. No computers, no laptops, nothing. Tablet, no. Don't even go there. So yeah, so she literally can only speak to people via, you know, actually picking up the phone.
Yeah.
So my mum said to me the other day, she said, what if we never see her again because of all this like COVID and you know, and what if this just perpetually continues?
Yeah,
just never ends.
Has she had her vaccination?
Yeah, so she's had her first vaccination.
Yeah.
She said she had itchy eyes, like itchy eyeballs. So I was like, okay. But no, she's fine. She's fine. Yeah, had the first one. But then Bianca was saying the other day, wasn't she, that the vaccination will only last for 6 months. So it's more than likely that this will be a yearly thing where you'll have to be yearly vaccinated.
Yeah. I know. It's a huge task, really, isn't it? If you think, I originally thought that you had the vaccine and then that's it, you were done. A bit like, you know, like rubella or measles, or I didn't realise that it was going to, until Bianca told us the other day, that it's going to have to be something that's regularly sort of, you know, revaccinated. But yeah, I mean, we've got us slightly off. We digressed there, didn't we, into the vaccine? That's a whole other conversation as well.
It does. It is, you know, linked to loneliness, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you're an elderly person, you haven't seen anyone for almost a year, and then you've got to go and get this vaccine. That must be like almost like a shock to the system.
Oh, absolutely.
To be around so many people.
Yeah. And then obviously, depending on which vaccine you have, then you have to go and get, it's not like even you've got it and then you go, right, there you go, you're all done, you're safe, because you've got to wait for the next, what are they saying, was it 12 weeks now in between? There's all disagreements.
Yeah, it's supposed to be less, I think. It's supposed to be like 6 weeks or something like that, but at the moment it's 12 weeks because they can't get the vaccine out quick enough.
Yeah.
Basically, is what my understanding is.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard as well. But I guess, I mean, I think COVID has had such a huge impact on loneliness, and not just the elderly, like the children as well. You know, they're not seeing any of their friends at the moment. They're not going to school, seeing their friends, their teachers. They're not going to their whatever hobbies they have, whether, you know, rugby, football, ballet, whatever their hobbies are. They're not having that interaction with friends anymore. And my kids are 10 and 7, and my son, he'll like use the phone and that, but my daughter, because I say to her, do you want to FaceTime one of your friends? And it's just not really her thing. She's not at the age yet where she can sit and talk for very long, you know. And I'd say to her, do you want to speak to so and so? And she's like, no. And she just wants to play with them. She wants to be in school playing. So I think, you know, children are having a form of loneliness as well, because they're missing all of, you know, their friends. And, you know, I don't feel lonely in the sense that I'm I'm not lonely. I've got the kids at home. My husband's out still working. Obviously, he's here. I speak to my mum every day. I've got my two sisters. Obviously, work colleagues. We speak on Zoom and whatnot. I don't feel lonely, but I miss seeing people. I miss people. I miss just going out for a coffee with friends or going to the pub with friends and just doing the normal things. So
it's a little everyday things we're missing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's not many people are saying, "Oh, do you know what? I really miss the office."
Yeah.
It's more like I really miss just hanging out with the people that I love, which is completely understandable. And I think that if we take anything from this moving forwards after vaccinations and all that, is to remember to do all those little things, even if you can't be bothered, like going coffee with someone,
Yeah, definitely. Bethy's just said, I think it's worse because people have no choice. You either isolate or get ill or possibly die. I think if people had the choice, they would feel the responsibility and cope with it better. Absolutely. I guess it's going back a bit to what we said earlier, the lack of control at the moment is hard for people to deal with.
Wrap their heads around,
we've never lived in such times, and we're told, we can't go out, we can't leave our house, we can only exercise one time a day. We've never lived in such times, have we? So to have, and we're almost a year now, aren't we? We're almost a year doing this, and it's lockdown 3 is a lot harder than anything we went through last year, in my opinion, my children's opinion. As a family, we're finding, my husband's okay because he still goes to work every day, so his life hasn't really changed. All that's changed is when he gets in from work, I'm just more miserable than what I normally was because I've been at home with the kids all day and I'm trying to work, so I'm like but yeah, I mean, it's a long time that we've had this going on, and it's a long time perhaps that people have not had those connections and not been able to see. I mean, I feel like my mum and dad obviously FaceTime the kids and everything, but like my kids just miss going round and giving Nan and Granddad a big cuddle, and my mum and dad miss that as well. And it's those little things, it's not like you hit the nail on the head, Georgia. It's not the big things, it's those little things that you always take for granted, going and giving your Nan and Granddad a cuddle, or and we must make sure that when all of this is finally over, that we hug everyone. Do you think we'll just walk along the streets and everyone's just going to be randomly hugging when we're allowed? Could you?
I think maybe. I think that, I mean, after the clapping on the doorsteps, after that happened for however long, I think hugging your street is probably the next step.
A group hug on your street. Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? So how has COVID impacted loneliness? I guess the answer is in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah. Every facet.
Oh, so many different ways, so many different ages. I think every age and every person in some way has, I'd say, felt a slight bit of loneliness during this pandemic. It'd be impossible not to. Anyone who comes out of this the other end and says they haven't felt a little bit of where they felt a little bit lonely, I'd say, well, you're lying, because I think we all must have. And what's going to be our action for this one?
I guess make sure you get
it's all over. Yes, make sure you get your vaccinations. If they call you up, get it done. It's just so important. I hate all this conspiracy theory, blooming don't get vaccinated. Just if they call you up to get it done, I just think just get it done. And then we can all have a big hugging party on our streets. Imagine, I do think to myself, the day when they go, that's it, it's over, there's no more COVID. Can you imagine the party that's going to happen? That does make me feel a bit excited. I think, like how last year, the VE Day parties, I don't know where you live. I live in a village, and like our street did a party. It was all socially distanced and whatnot, but we had all food out the front. Oh my God, it was literally the best day ever. And that was still when, COVID was rife and we were still on some sort of lockdown. Just think the party we're all going to have when this is all done is going to be the one hell of a party.
Party of the century.
It's going to be a party of the century. Even if you're not a party goer and you're an introvert, you can just sit in your house and watch out the window and have a couple of Jaeger bombs and fall asleep on the sofa.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes I do think to myself, you know, and a lot of people I speak to, like friends and whatnot, we all say, just wait till this is over. We're having the biggest night out. My friend, I had a Zoom with two of my friends last week, and one of them said, so where are we going to go? What's going to be our first girls' night out once this is all over? I said, Marbella. Let's go for it. I mean,
why not?
I'm going to be well overdue some time off from the kids. So I haven't had a holiday for so long. I haven't even had a girly night out. So I'm just going to go all out, and, you know, I won't go to Marbella. I won't go to Marbella, but I might just go to the pub all weekend and not come home.
Get an Airbnb or something.
Yeah, exactly. Let my husband look after the kids for a few nights, you know, see what I've been dealing with. But yeah, I think, that's sort of get the vaccines whilst we have to, stay home, stay safe, protect lives, protect the NHS. That's all we can really do at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Is this our last? Oh, yeah. So a few of the loneliness activities that we had to think about and what you can do. So get active. So yeah, you can, there's so many online groups and things going on now. If you want to get active, but you know, you don't even have to leave your house these days. At the yard, we're doing a yard camp, which is every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and there's an afternoon session and an evening session. So, you know, that's always something to get involved with if you fancy.
Oh, and I was going to say, and important to say that Luke said that it's going to be like different abilities and stuff. He said stuff about there's going to be like seated exercise sessions. So even if you aren't as mobile, you can still like get involved with the art camp. So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. All abilities. It's not just, you don't have to be super fit. You don't have to be anything, you know, that he'll tailor it, and there'll be sessions tailored to everyone's levels and abilities. So yeah, that's a really good thing to get involved with, and it will make you feel better mentally as well, because exercise releases those endorphins, and it's really, really good for you. I know we speak about it a lot, but it's so true. Find like-minded people. So again, a bit like we were speaking about earlier, you know, there's loads of people who are into the same things as you. I'm not a big online person, but I'm pretty sure there must be things like forums and that, you know, if there's a certain thing you're interested in, you can go online and you'll be able to find someone or some group that is relatable to what you're interested in or what you want to do.
Yeah, Facebook groups and pages and things like that.
Definitely. Become more tech friendly. This is going to be my one that I need to do, because I definitely need to up the ante on the technology. But again, there's so many free courses and things at the moment, isn't there, because of the pandemic? There's so many free things that you can go on. So you don't even have to pay. There's so many things that you can just go on. Don't have to worry about whether you can afford it or not. That can teach you different skills. And if it's like a technology one, have a Google, and Eventbrite have loads of great courses and things on all different things, don't they, Georgia?
Yeah, definitely. And you can always look at YouTube. YouTube is an amazing resource for finding free tutorials that can basically teach you anything. It's like kind of like Google. If you type basically any question into Google, it will give you an answer. It may not be the answer that you want, but it will be an answer. So yeah, you can like type into YouTube like how to set up a Word document, you know, and someone will have made that video.
Yeah.
So
we have to get a new printer, because since the kids have been at home off school, we've got so much work that we need to print out. Literally, I could not work. This is how bad I am. You'll laugh at this, Georgia. I could not work out how to put the new ink in it. So literally, I had to YouTube it. I just watched this guy doing a YouTube video, showed me how to do it. I was like, perfect. It was so easy. But yeah, I'm terrible at things like that. But like you say, they guarantee there'll be a YouTube video on it, because there is practically everything these days.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, write it down. Do you know, sometimes when you're feeling like there's a lot going on in your head, and you don't know how to sort of get it out, writing it down is such a great way of getting your feelings and emotions out, and it clears your head. I've said before, I suffer a lot with anxiety and I have insomnia, and sometimes I get to bed and I'm laying there, my head's absolutely going mental, I can't think, I can't sleep. Just keep a notepad and a pen by your bed and jot down whatever's going on in your head, because as stupid and as trivial as it sounds, it really does work. It does clear your mind. It stops all those thoughts going around. So yeah, getting pen to paper is a really, really good thing to do. Do some volunteering. This is another excellent way of, making connections, getting yourself involved with other people, other organisations. People generally think, well, we can't do volunteering at the moment because we're in a lockdown. We can, because lots of organisations want people to do things online. And I don't know, is there any good websites to go to for that, Georgia? Do you know?
I would actually say somewhere to look at would be the yard. Because of course we have lots of things going on.
Yeah.
And you could join me in Jasmin.
Yeah, and we're always looking for volunteers. So like these sessions that we do, the conversation starters, the tea and toast, if you're watching, you think, I'd love to get involved in some of those conversations and you've got the time to, we'd love to have you. Because the more people that we get involved in a conversation, the more dynamic and the more, it's all the different ideas into the pot, isn't it? At some point,
I say, Jasmin? I said 2 people can only say the ideas that are in their heads.
Yeah.
So we can only say what we've got, So we need other people to add to that to get us bouncing off of each other, to get more solutions.
Exactly. Yeah. The more people, the more ideas, the more opinions. That's how we're going to get a really good conversation going, and you bounce off each other. So you might start to get bored if it's just me and Georgia in a few weeks, because we'll just be, it's just me and Georgia, our own brains. So
brains, and that's it. That's all we can give you.
Yeah. But yeah, on a serious note, if it is something you think you might like to be involved in, or if you think, oh, absolutely not, I couldn't think of anything worse than talking live online, there's loads of other things behind the scenes. So drop us a line. You can contact us on any social media, or you can send us an email to shout@communitycourtyard.org and we will get back to you.
Or you know either myself or Jasmin personally, and you'd be more comfortable sending us a DM, please feel free to do that as well, because we'll pass on any messages, etc.
Definitely, yeah. Yes, whatever is more comfortable for you, go down that line. Absolutely. Hang out with some animals. Wow, I don't know if we can do that at the minute, can we?
Well, no, I mean like your own pets and stuff.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like go down to the farm and just go get cozy with the donkey.
Not like break into a farm, hang out in a field.
Wow.
Touch cows. Don't do that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, gosh, our pets are going to be so sad when everyone goes back to work. And my dog he loves having us all at home. But yeah, pets are really good therapy, aren't they? Your animals, they're really good forms of therapy. So yeah, spend some time with your pet.
I have a very clingy dog. Not clingy to me, she's clingy to Stephen. So my partner. Whenever he leaves the house to pull the bins around to the front, she just jumps up behind the TV, because the TV's in front of the window, and she'll sit on the windowsill, scratch the window, and just whine. And she can see him. She can see he's there, and she'll just go. And I'm like, Francis, he's going to be back in like a minute. And he comes in and she's like, oh, she acts as if he's been gone for 10 years.
Our dog is, since we've all been at home a lot more, she's got, is it he? I don't know why I said she. Is it he, Ralphie? He, if we all go upstairs, like me and the kids go upstairs in the morning to get ready, he cries. He's become really needy. He just cries and whinges until we come downstairs. And I'm like, seriously, dog, got 2 needy kids. I don't need a needy dog as well. Just let us get ready in the morning. But I think, they're just spending so much more time with their adults at the moment, with their humans at the moment, aren't they? That they're all getting spoiled. But settle in with a movie, another great one. Love a movie night. We've been doing more movie nights whilst we've been on lockdown, but that's a great one to do. And you had that we spoke about it in Tea and Toast, that Netflix one that we could put a link in, couldn't we, Georgia?
Yeah, so Netflix Party, I think it may have changed its name to Teleparty, but it's basically like an extension in your browser, and it allows you to watch Netflix at the same time as someone else. And so if you pause it, it'll be paused for both of you, and completely, lined up. So, and then you can chat in it as well. So, which is great for things like Drag Race, where you want to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. So, yeah.
We'll stick the link in the comments at the end if that's something you think you might be interested in. And then finally, find support from local organisations. We know there's Lincoln Lives in Northampton, and you just need a GP referral for that. So if that is something that you're at the point where you are really struggling, you must reach out to your GP. You must reach out and get that help, because there is help out there. And Age UK, Northamptonshire, they also do like a befriending service. So if you're feeling really lonely and think that might benefit you, or if it's the other way around and think, I'd really like to help and be a friend to people, I'm sure if you contact them, they can advise you how you get involved in that. All right, Georgia, we literally run over time now.
Oh my God.
It's
we thought we were going to get to we thought we were going to get to 45 minutes in and be like, right, got nothing to do now.
I know. We were literally panicking at the beginning, thinking, oh my goodness, how are we going to fill an hour and a half? But we've actually smashed it. We're over an hour and a half now.
So just last bit, if you wanted to do it.
Really quickly, just to finish off, if you were with us at the beginning, we started off on these 4 photos and we just wrote down words that we thought, they're not these 4 photos, are they? I thought they were the same ones then.
Different.
Yeah, so we started off with 4 photos and we just wrote down a couple of words that we felt described the photo. So we'll just do the same as we finish off and just see what we feel with this. So I'm not going to write down this time, Georgia. Should we just say out loud?
Yeah, sure.
A. What would you say for A?
I think open.
Yeah, I would say amazing, because I just think, look at that person standing on that with that amazing view.
So it's incredible, isn't it?
It does. I wouldn't look at that photo and say lonely. I would look at that photo and say achievement, as though they've sort of had to climb, conquered. That's the one, Bethy. Bethy's just said conquered. That is spot on.
Yeah.
Definitely conquered a huge, task to get up there. Yeah, I love that photo. It's great. B, what are we thinking for B, Georgia?
I'm thinking. This is a tough one, because I think it is kind of lonely in the sense that it's clearly like a little sort of cabin in the middle of a forest, kind of maybe a valley. But it could also be perceived as being like cozy, and
that was in my word. I would look at that. I was going to say cozy and retreat. Like I'd go away and stay in that log cabin for a weekend and have a cozy retreat away. That looks actually quite appealing to me at the moment. I like it. B, Bethy's put shady house where horror movies take place. I was just talking about going on a relaxing retreat there, Bethy. You put me off now.
It does. It does kind of look a bit.
Could be. Maybe not so nice in the dark when you're just stuck in the middle of a field. Okay, C. What are we thinking about C?
So C, I do think is lonely. I think because of like the mist and it's kind of darker and it's.
No, I agree. I'd say that's more of a lonely, a bit of a sadder photo.
Very beautiful though at the same time.
Yeah, it is. I think lonely for that one. And let's finish off on D. I like D. That thinks like that'll be me sat there at the spa, looking out of a window, just about to go, waiting for them to call me in for my massage. I like that photo.
Yeah, I like that photo. I think it's an interesting one because you can see the her hair is kind of like illuminated by the sun, and I think that makes me feel like her face is like very warm, you know, which kind of makes me feel like it's happy.
I feel like she's smiling. I feel like she's smiling on that photo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know we can't see her face. Bethy's put reflection. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, that sort of concludes us, brings us to the end of our first ever conversation starter on loneliness. Yay, we did it, our first one. I was so nervous about this, but actually, apart from me, having to run upstairs to deal with my crying child, didn't go too bad. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone that's joined in with us today. And it's so lovely to have you guys commenting and us putting your comments up, because like we say, you know, it just really gives a different dynamic to our conversation. So thank you everybody for that.
Thank you to Bethy for your amazing comments telling us what's what, and Laurel for letting us know how you feel about it.
We have Paul joined in as well, didn't he? So thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you guys, and this is going to be something we're doing once a month. So again, if you think of a topic you'd like us to discuss, or do you think would be a really good one to just delve a bit deeper into, then let us know, because we're always looking for different suggestions, and obviously we want to talk about the things that interest you guys and that are relevant to you guys. So get in touch if you've got any ideas. Our next one will be at the end of February. So on that note, Georgia, it's time for us to go and relax for a bit, have a bit of me time. Yay. All right, guys. Well, everyone, have a great afternoon. And Georgia and I will be back on tomorrow morning, 10:30, tea and toast, talking all about
tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.